Okay, we're going to complete the teacher model of student paced. This week we're going to be reading passages about Martin Luther King Jr., and our standard is asking and answering questions while reading. Usually when we read a passage and have questions, the answers to the questions are in the passage. So today Miss Esther's going to model to you how you go back to the text to answer the question. So let's read the passage first. The title is Martin Luther King Jr. Martin Luther King Jr. is a very important man in the history of the United States of America. He was born on January 15, 1929 in Atlanta, Georgia. His father and grandfather were both pastors. They inspired him to go to school to also become a pastor or religious leader. He met his wife, Coretta Scott, in Boston after he moved there for school. What makes Martin Luther King Jr. so important to the United States, though, is his belief in civil rights. He believed that people should not be judged based on their skin color, so he peacefully fought for equality among all races. He would give speeches, lead marches, and organize other nonviolent forms of protest. King's main goals were to have racial equality and civil rights for all. Something that Martin Luther King Jr. is very famous for is his I Have a Dream speech, which happened in Washington, D.C. in 1963. The speech went on to become one of America's most famous speeches in history. King is honored every year on Martin Luther King Jr. Day. This is celebrated on the third Monday in January. There are also several museum exhibits that show important information about King, and throughout the United States, there are many roads that are named after Martin Luther King Jr. All right, let's go to our questions. Question number 1. According to the text, when was Martin Luther King Jr. born? So when I see that word when, I know that it's going to be a day or a time. Okay, it also could be like in the morning, in the afternoon. It could also be the seasons of the year. So I'm looking for, I think, a date. When was he born? So I'm going to go to the passage, and I'm probably going to be looking for the word born, and I see right here, he was born on January 15th, 1929. So that I know my answer is A, January 15th. All right, question number 2. According to the text, which sentence best describes Martin Luther King Jr.'s early life? So those two words, early life, would be when he was young. Let's look at our choices. He was born in Atlanta, Georgia. In 1963, Martin Luther King gave the I Have a Dream speech. So I know that one's not right because that's when he was an adult. Martin Luther King Jr. is always celebrated on the third Monday. I know that one's not right because that just talks about the holiday. And this one says, as an adult, he gave many speeches. I know that one's not right either because it uses the word adult. So I think it's this one. He was born in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm going to go back to the text and make sure that this is actually true. So right here it says he was born in Atlanta, Georgia. So I'm going to say the answer is A. Okay, last question. What was the name of the speech Martin Luther King gave in 1963? I remember reading about that down here at the bottom where it says his famous speech. So I'm going to highlight this sentence. Something that Martin Luther King Jr. is very famous for is his I Have a Dream speech. So the question says, what is the name? So I'm going to look at these titles, and the answer is going to be B, I Have a Dream. So guys, if you notice, all of these answers were in this passage. So in the next assignment, you are going to be reading an article about Martin Luther King Jr. You will be practicing the same thing that we did here today. We're going to read the story, and then you will have 4 questions where you have to return to the text and underline or highlight the sentence that answers our question and then select the best answer. So you may now go to your next assignment.